Thought I'd check in with one of the longtime fixtures of Denver and also a good friend of mine, Craig Silverman. Good to see you again.
Hey, John. Good to see you.
Hey, I thought I'd bring you in because I know you're starting a new gig on a competing radio station, which will bury you. Don't worry about that. But you've had a real history here in Colorado. A lot of people know you from radio, but I kind of want to talk to you first about how you got into it, but also then the changing face of local media and how much I think we've lost in all sorts of areas, from radio to television to newspapers especially. But first, you were an assistant DA. Is that
chief deputy?
Chief deputy.
Tried to be the DA.
Pardon me, I don't know the bureaucracy as well
as
you. And for whom did you work?
Dale Tooley hired me in 1980, and then Norm Early was my boss, and then Bill Ritter, and then I ran against Bill Ritter in 1996, and that put me right into private practice.
When you lost.
You know, I lost in November 96, and in December 96, Jean Benet was murdered in Boulder. People came to me for comments, and that helped launch another career.
Talk to me a little bit about the election with Bill Ritter. And I've always liked Bill Ritter. I can't stand his politics. We fought on all sorts of things, but I've always thought he was a good guy. But then again, I never ran against him. So talk about these little pieces of Colorado history. It seemed like yesterday when you were running against him for that seat.
Right. No, it was really something, because I met Bill Ritter when we started on the same day at CU Law School in Boulder, and then we both applied for a job at the Denver DA's office, got hired together. June 1, 1980 was our first day as interns, and then we were great buddies. I danced at his wedding, he danced at mine, and yet when I got a little...
I don't want to picture either one of you dancing.
Well,
I'm sorry, that just ruined it.
Right.
Although, that's okay now.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely.
Nothing wrong with it.
So bottom line is that Bill was a little liberal for me. We had a disagreement about capital punishment. He was ambitious, so was I. When Norm Early left the DA's office, Roy Romer appointed Bill Ritter. I thought I could do a better job, so I ran against him as an unaffiliated independent candidate. My platform was prosecution and politics are a poor mix. And we had a hell of a campaign. It was back when the Rocky and the Post were trying to scoop each other, and they had a lot of fun with our race. And Bill and I were great friends in the past, and we're back to being friends. It only took about 10 years, 10 years to get over it, right?
All right. So you go into private practice, and then Jean Benet happens.
Right.
And for me, that Jean Benet case was one of those cases where the national media was almost taking its lead from the local media, and you were part of that. Pete Boyles really was the big driver of that. What was that like?
It was amazing. I mean, Peter Boyles would have me on early in the morning. I got conditioned to expect his call, led to some quotes in the paper. Nightline picked it up. I did a feature for Nightline. I remember they said, "Can we come to your office?" I didn't even have an office at that point, but I had a case in Jefferson County. We went to the Taj Mahal, and they had that amazing backdrop toward Boulder. It was a perfect day. The people at Rivera Live, Geraldo Rivera's producers, saw it, invited me on that show. And if you remember, Rivera Live covered Jean Benet nonstop as well.
Talk to me a little bit about the bug, because both you and I have it. That particularly when it comes to radio, it's such an amazing medium. And what I like particularly about radio, or talk radio, is that it's this two-way dialogue. And what I love is that when you say something stupid, which for me is pretty much all the time, that there's somebody there to challenge you on it immediately. Right. It's not like putting out a newspaper where maybe you can respond in a letter to the editor or online in a comment. No, you face the person that just said it, and you're talking to all the people who are listening. And I love that back and forth.
I do too. I grew up playing a lot of sports, and that gets the adrenaline rushing. And then I was a trial attorney. I still am a trial attorney. Unfortunately, with this Saturday show, I can keep being a trial attorney. I like that performance. I like the competition. And you're right about talk radio. It's live. You can plan it out, but it's unpredictable. You have to respond. You have to try to score points. And it's fun. It concentrates the mind.
Well, also, you got to keep people over the break. I mean, the guys in the office, all they want is somebody to stay over the break and listen to you for another 15 minutes. From my point of view, what I love about it, it is hyper-local. That, yeah, we all have things to talk about from D.C., and we need to talk about that, and what's going on in Israel, and that's wildly important. But it's the JonBenet murder. And for you, when you were doing a daily, the Churchill fight, you really led that. And so you had this big story, but it was a local story, and only really, I think, radio could keep up with it.
Well, thanks. I'm very proud of what Dan Caplis and I did with respect to exposing Ward Churchill. I'm a big believer in the First Amendment, but the guy was a fraud. And after watching D'Souza's movie, America, seeing Ward Churchill in that movie, never have I been more proud of my role in exposing Ward Churchill. No way should he have continued at CU.
All right. You're no longer doing the show on KHOW. I'm still doing shows on KHOW. So tell me what you think has happened in radio. And I remember growing up here, listening to radio, Hal and Charlie, to all these folks who were part of the scene, part of what made Denver special. That seems to be changing, at least in my mind. Radio keeps contracting. I'm up all night with Rick Barber. All this good stuff.
Or John Caldera.
Or John Caldera, who used to have a daily show on KOA.
I remember him. Yeah. What happened to him?
I don't know. These guys come and go. And I miss those times of having those kind of relationships, because a relationship with a talk show guy is a little bit different than with a columnist or with a news anchor. There's a bit more back and forth. I see it shrinking. What do you see?
Well, I love KHOW. I spent 8 great years at KHOW and a couple years before that as a KOA legal analyst. All you have to do is turn the dial a little. At 710, our good buddy Peter Boyle said, we're hiring while they're firing. And honestly, I see a lot of great enthusiasm and a lot of old Clear Channel people over at 710 KNUS.
Well, is that just a retread station? Is that what you're telling me? You lose it here and you go there?
No, hardly. We're making news, and Peter Boyles, he's indefatigable. He's cooking with gas, and he's the undeniable leader of KNUS, just as he was when I worked at KHOW. The morning guy, he's the most important batter in the lineup. Talk
to me about radio changing, though. I mean, I understand that you kind of have corporate radio, which is, and Clear Channel owns, 1,200 stations.
Right.
And I see that as they're dealing with, struggling with debt and some other issues, that the feel of it is less local. It's less local driven. And the demographic has changed. Old guys like you and I, we like talk radio. We know the characters. We like the conversation. It's not drawing in the same demographic as it was. Does it still have life? Does it still have future? Or will it be replaced by robots?
A lot of people have tried to kill radio in a variety of ways, but it's still out there.
I know. I had a show for years. I tried to kill it that way.
Right. You did your part to kill it, no doubt about it. But I'm telling you that it still survives. And a lot of kids, whether they liked it or not, listened to Dan and me while their parents drove them here and there. And they ended up liking it. So, yeah, it mainly skews toward older listeners.
And males. Women don't listen to talk radio. They hear enough men yapping. So it's a tough market, and it's a shrinking market.
There you go, generalizing about women again.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, other than women, I think your head's on pretty straight. Anyway, bottom line is that there's still an audience, and I think we still do matter. And people listen to talk radio. People love a good conversation. All the things that attract us, they like that too, the spontaneity, the unpredictability, the local aspect. What's Peter Boyles going to say about this or that? How is Dan Caplis going to react? It's kind of fun. I know you do a weekend show as well, to be at the end of the week and kind of absorb what's occurred all week long and anticipate the next week.
KNUS, what time, when can I listen to you?
9 a.m. till 12 noon. And frankly, I love that spot. Saturday morning, I'm up by 9 o'clock, and there isn't much in the way of competition. There is the mutual fund store, which is must listen.
Hey,
those car guys.
Don't take away my infomercials,
No,
man. That pays my rent.
But especially here at Channel 12, I love Channel 12. But NPR puts on the car guys. Those guys retired a couple years ago. Those are all just repeats. Why don't you give me a listen instead?
When you were doing the Daily Show, it was 3 hours and then sometimes 4 hours. I mean, it was big. How did you keep a law practice and that going? I mean, that one of them had to take a hit.
Well, I was a little more selective, but frankly, you know Dan Caplis. A lot of times I would come in and not be sure what we were going to do, but then Dan would say something and I would respond, and we would be off to the races, because Dan and I are quite different, even though we both share some disappointment with Barack Obama.
I want to move a little bit from radio to where we would get a lot of our stories and what we would work with and bounce off of, which was the newspapers. And now with one newsletter instead of two newspapers that we used to have in this town, it's harder. And that local coverage, where do we get it?
No, you're exactly right. And we're not letting out any secrets to tell people, hey, our major resource was reading the newspaper every morning. I used to read Rocky and the Post, and now, as you've alluded to, it's so thin, I think we're all hurting as a result.
To get to that point where you're holding the Post and wait a second, did it shrink in size as well as depth? It's like, yeah, the actual size, the print went shrinking down. And that's why I think what you do and what all talk show hosts do is a really key ingredient to keep it local.
Can I put a shout out for something you're affiliated with? Complete Colorado. There's a great news aggregator, and they do some original content. That's a must-visit place if you're going to do talk radio in Colorado.
All right. But if I need a lawyer, I can still call you. Is that right?
Absolutely. I wish you would. I'm surprised you haven't. Almost everybody else in the business has.
Well, I'll wait for the next DUI
okay.
We'll do
Please.
that. All right. Give us the details again. I want to listen to you. When, where?
Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. till noon, 710 KNUS.
Always great to see you, Craig.
Great to see you, John.
And thank you for everything you've done for the town. Hey, listen for me on the other station, KHOW Radio. Check out the Independence Institute. That's independenceinstitute.org. Tell a friend about this show, and we'll see you next week.